Hi, this is Angie and I'm back with the second part of the baby quilt. I've placed all of my blocks on the design wall, and if you take a closer look you can see the darker colors are on the top and the lighter colors are on the bottom, giving it that ombre look. Next we're going to label the rows so that we can start sewing them. I've labeled each row starting with 1 and ending with 9, and I've also labeled every other row with the word up so that I'll remember to press the seams going up so that they nest nicely together. Okay, I've removed each row from the design wall. So here's row 1, here's row 2, here's row 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set aside all the rows except for one. And what I want to do is make sure that the grain of fabric goes in the same direction on every single square. So if I pick up my block, you can hear that it's kind of a dull popping sound. If I turn it to the right, or actually turn to the left, you can hear it pop. Now normally I put this on the top, but because my fabric has things that I want facing up, I'm going to let me show you what I mean. In row 3, we have this fabric here. I would prefer to sew that so that it's going up and down and not sideways or upside down, although I did sew a couple upside down on my other quilt. But I'm going to try to get them all straight on this one. And even sometimes when I try, I still fail, but that's okay. That's the beauty of being handmade. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that if this popping sound is on the right and the left, because it's reverse, you know, then I want to make sure that all of them facing up have like that dull popping sound. So there's block 1, block 2, block 3. Maybe in a couple years I'll get the terminology right. So I already have all of these. I'll be honest and say I did this before I turned on the camera, but that's the loud pop, that's the dull pop. I am putting the dull pop at the top because I have fabric that's directional and I want it to be up and down and not sideways. Okay, so I've made sure that row 1 is all facing the same direction. I'll do the same thing to 2 through 9. Then what I'm going to do is take this stack to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew. Now you can, let me show you. I'm going to take my first block, take my second block, place them right sides together, line them up, and pin. So that's block 2 pinned to block 1. And then you can fold down block 2 and you can place right sides together, block 3, and pin. Now I'll be honest and say I normally pin a lot. I'm going to do the same thing for 4. But when it comes to these 5-inch squares, they don't move too much. So I probably won't pin the rest of them. I'll pin row 1 just to show you when I take it to the sewing machine. But after that, I'm probably just going to wing it. If one of them starts to get crooked or whatever, I will just get my seam ripper out and start again. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay, so I'll finish this one and then we will go to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm on the very last one and I just wanted to make sure that I showed you all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do now is head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to show you how I'm going to sew these blocks together. So I'll be back. Okay, so we are at the sewing machine and I have got row 1 here all pinned and ready to sew. So what I'm going to do, try to make sure that I don't poke myself. I'm going to take that first pin out. I'm going to position it here on my sewing machine. We're going to be sewing with a 1/4 inch seam. And I do back stitch. Okay, so our first one is done. Now we're just going to slide down to the next square. So because I've pinned these are all ready to sew. On the second row, I'm not going to pin them, and then I'm just going to place them on my sewing machine. So I will sew through the first row, and then I'll show you what I mean on the second row. Okay, I have completely finished row 1. It's got my 1 on here. It's got the word up, meaning I'm going to sew, or I'm going to iron these seams up. Okay, so I'm going to grab the second row, and I'm going to show you what I mean about not pinning. So here's row 2. What I'm going to do is just place my fabric right here, and I'm just going to flip it over just like that, placing them right sides together, and I'm just going to sew down that right side 1/4 inch seam just like when I pinned it. Because these squares are really small, they don't shift as much as some of the larger squares or blocks, so I feel comfortable not pinning. Okay, so I have row 1 and row 2 sewn together, and I think this is a pretty good stopping point for the next video. So what I'm going to do is sew all the rest of my rows, and then in our next video we will actually press our seams and then start sewing our rows together. Don't forget, if you have any questions, to be sure to post them on our Chicken Scratch Facebook Quilt Along group. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye.